I've been asked many times to explain the mods that I have on this ARP 2600. So you can see up on the top row, there's some switches and knobs that aren't on a regular 2600, stock one. There's a little switch here above the ADSR envelope generator, and there's a switch down here, and there's some switches over here, and some extra holes. So this video will be my opportunity to tell you about some of the mods and why I did them. Because if you remember, way back then, there was no memory. And I was doing, live sessions where I was playing with like a band or an orchestra, like for, let's say, for a TV show, or more often for a movie. And I was out there and I had to make changes very quickly. So without memory, I needed to come up with like something so that I could change octaves and change basic settings and get things to last longer and all that sort of thing. So that's what was the genesis of why I wanted to get these switches put on here, because I didn't really want to drill holes into the ARP 2600. But I am glad I did, because I've gotten a lot of functionality over the years. I just depend on them. So let's start. I guess it's best to start with oscillator 1 and tell you what this first switch is. It's the same as the octave, rotating knob on a Mini Moog. So in the center position, you get the actual pitch, and this is just going to be oscillator 1 playing. In the lower position, it goes down an octave. And in the upper position, it goes up an octave. And that's the same on each oscillator. Lower, and then oscillator 3. So the first switch is an octave switch. And each one of these black and white knobs are associated with the oscillators. So the black one here is associated with the down, and the white one is associated with the up on this switch. So essentially, you can calibrate the octave. So if the octave isn't quite in tune, let's hear the oscillator by itself. You can fine tune them here. So that's lower, upper for oscillator 1, lower, upper for oscillator 2, lower, upper for oscillator 3. So that explains all these knobs and these first switches. Then, on each oscillator, there's 2 knobs and a switch. So when you go in the lower position of this switch, this knob will give you a preset voltage, and I can change it to whatever. So it's at an octave now. So when I move this switch, it goes down an octave. And then when I move the switch up, it'll go to the voltage on this knob, and it's up an octave. So now essentially I have the capability of 5 octaves. So I can go all the way up to there. So if we started here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have 5 octaves. And that's true on each one of these. And you can also, if you have 2 oscillators, let's say, I can put a voltage on this one and get an interval. So if I'm playing along in unison, preset voltages, and then maybe a different one on here. So unison, and then this guy up higher, and then so moving over to the right, you see this little pink switch here, and I just put a little pink cap on it. I think I got these from the ARP sequencer or something. I forget where I got these little caps. So what this switch does is it gives me about 10 times the length of any of these sliders. So if the decay time is like normal decay time, and let's say here's the longest decay time you can get on an ARP 2600. It's okay, it's functional, but super long, longer than necessary. But when you're in this mode, you get much longer decay times and attack times and release times. You notice there's a little bit of noise in there. That's going to happen. So you have to keep these guys clean. Getting the right spray to go in there is very helpful. But you can see the usefulness. Like, here's what it would have been without that switch. And the release. Much shorter. So with this switch, I could literally, you know, hit a note like this, like a bass note, and walk away, play something else. So it gave me a lot of flexibility. Another useful thing to show you is there's two envelope generators here. I had this hole drilled. Now this hole looks exactly like the other holes. It's very clean. And what you can do here is have a separate gate for the AR envelope generator. So let's say I just want to use this clock. And that's normal mode. If I put it in this mode, then let's use like a noise source or something. So now I have the AR envelope generator firing from this clock, right? And then this envelope generator is free from the keyboard. Otherwise, without it, you would have, because both envelope generators fire from the keyboard gate at the same time, or this manual trigger. But this enables me to separate the AR envelope generator kind of sounds like a helicopter. And now you see these new switches down here. It enables me to do something like that. Hard cuts. Because otherwise I would have to do that. And then it might be a noisy pot. So I have a clean switch for either one of these. Same thing with the bass. And when I'm not using a sound, then it just, you don't get any hum or bleed on the filter. I know I'm clean. And I have these two switches here. So they're basically just gates for the inputs to these modules. They just turn it on and off, whatever signal's going in there. And then 4 holes and 4 holes. So these are mults. So there's a mult that comes with the synth right here. And a mult just makes more of the same thing. So, you know, if we just wanted to make a patch that had a sine wave going to, you know, this oscillator, and the filter. Now I can do it because I have a mult and I still have 2 extra mults to do other things. A lot of rumble there. There you go. And I'll increase the sine wave speed. And I'll increase the amount. And to the filter. So you can see having extra mults is pretty useful. And at the very minimum, when I have to run a cable, let's say from this synth, the right one, This is the right cable because it has a mini plug to a 1/4 inch jack. And I want to get over to the MS-20. It's not a bad extender, so you can use Molten that way. Hardly an advanced use. So there you go. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, in the comments. That's a kind of basic run through of the mods that you've seen on this ARP 2600. They've served me well. I'm very hesitant to drill holes into these vintage synthesizers, but I did this mod like in 1978 or something like that. So I've been living with it. I kind of can't live without it now, especially the Octave Switches. That's like a mini Moog, and it's really handy for going in and out of unison. And some of those tunings come in handy. And then this extended, length on the ADSR. That's really essential. So I thought these were essential. Hope you enjoyed this run through of a souped up ARP 2600.